Hello there, everyone. This is Unremarkable. And today I wanted to cover a pretty popular debate topic, but one that I don't think I really need to make a full-length proper video for, and that's Super Saiyan 2 Gohan versus Cabba. So this isn't going to be really scripted or structured at all. It's just really going to be me spitballing exactly what I think of the whole situation and matchup, just off the top of my head. I remember that actually back in the day, this was a pretty popular topic, and even now you still sometimes see it on like polls and stuff. YouTube polls in particular love hoeing this matchup out, it's everywhere. The Cabba meme has obviously progressed to a point where now Cabba is facing Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta for some reason.
As crazy as they seem, all of the memes are kinda true.
Stop the cap!
Yeah, if you ask the layman or someone that doesn't really pay attention to the power scaling of the series, they'd probably say Gohan, honestly, just because he's presented as more powerful. Gohan beats Cell, he's presented as the top of the verse. Goku and Vegeta, even in the Buu saga, are shitting themselves whenever they see Gohan. And then Cabba, he's just kind of this small, scrawny Saiyan, can't even go Super Saiyan, no tail, no bitches, yeah. But to anyone who does actually scale Dragon Ball, it is a little more obvious who actually wins this. Let me quickly lay out what exactly it's looking like for both characters, right? In terms of scaling. We'll lowball Cabba for this too, just so that everyone's on the same page as to where these guys stack up. So Gohan in the Cell games was able to defeat Perfect Cell, and then he defeats Super Perfect Cell. And Cell is my Kamehameha has enough power to destroy the entire solar system. The anime does highball him a little bit and give him actual legit universal metas, but I always usually go with that solar system argument. And then during the Buu saga, Goku actually really hypes up Gohan. He's really glazing him, you know? He's if you get angry, man, no one can beat you. He's no type of guy could ever defeat you when you get mad. And this is a Goku that has Super Saiyan 3 in his back pocket, by the way, so... And I shared this argument with some people, and they were clowning on me, and they were man, that don't make any sense. But it's actually literally what is happening. If you know how Gohan's rage amps work, according to El Manga Legendario, it actually unleashes his latent potential. So it's kind of like a pseudo ultimate Gohan in a way. And we see this is actually true later in the arc when Gohan does just get his potential unlocked. Without even going Super Saiyan, he legit manages to no-diff Super Buu, who is way stronger than both Fat Buu and Super Saiyan 3 Goku at this point. And it's not just Goku that says this, Vegeta seems to think so too. He's damn, when Gohan gets angry, there's no telling what can happen. He's the ultimate Giga Chad, could one-tap your entire verse, no diff, negative concept of diff. He makes more bands than you, his J's are cleaner, he could take your girl, that kind of stuff. And Kid Buu, or not Kid Buu, Fat Buu, is actually stated in Dragon Book to be a Galaxy Buster. And this gets even worse if you use El Manga Legendario, because in El Manga Legendario, Fat Buu is actually confirmed to be a Universe Buster. So, yeah, this Super Saiyan 2 Gohan from the Cell games, according to Goku and Vegeta, could probably defeat Fat Buu, who can destroy the universe. Now, compare my very charitable interpretation of Gohan from the Cell games next to a downplayed version of Cabba. Cabba is stated to be equal to Vegeta multiple times. Vegeta says it himself in both the manga and the anime, but the official Toei website also says this. You could maybe argue that Vegeta was really only having fun with the fight, where Cabba did seem to be giving it his all, but you could just chalk that up to combat experience, Vegeta just knows more than Cabba, or Vegeta just knows how to keep his composure better. Even if Cabba was weaker than Vegeta, it's not to an insane amount. Vegeta, again, says that they're roughly even. And this is Vegeta after he trains 3 years in the time chamber with Goku, and he's already experienced Resurrection F in Battle of Gods. In Battle of Gods, Goku and Beerus were going to destroy the entire macrocosm just by punching each other. A reasonable lowball for this feat would likely be looking at the Daizenshuu description for the Realm of the Kaioshin, which states that this area makes up 1/10 the total size of the macrocosm. Now, obviously, the living universe in Dragon Ball is infinite in size. I don't think I really need to prove that, but here are some scans on screen if you really do want to get some evidence. Bare minimum, the macrocosm is made up of 10 infinite size spaces. And then Super Saiyan God Goku was going to destroy all of that just by punching, right? And then Goku absorbs Super Saiyan God into his base form. And then Vegeta actually surpasses that level after 6 months of training and obtaining God Ki. Already you can kind of see where I'm going with this, right? And this is not only base Cabba, I am downplaying Cabba immensely. I'm not taking into account higher dimensions or anything like that. I'm just looking at a very simplified overview of Dragon Ball cosmology. Obviously, Cabba also gets Super Saiyan, and then Super Saiyan 2 in the Tournament of Power. So what's that, like 1,000 times universal? I think that is the threshold for multiversal. And this is just me looking at their feats. It gets much worse when you look at the inverse scaling. Super Saiyan 2 Gohan could probably maybe defeat Super Saiyan 3 Goku from the Buu Saga, okay? And this is me being, like, charitable with Gohan. And then compare that to Cabba, who scales to Vegeta, who is stronger than even a Super Saiyan 3 Vegito from Battle of Gods. Actually, we don't even need that. Base Vegeta and ergo base Cabba are both more powerful than Super Vegito from the Buu Saga, who is undeniably, according to Daizenshu, stronger than Super Saiyan 3 Goku. And on top of that, pretty much everyone you ask will agree Super Vegito would beat Super Saiyan 2 Gohan. Like, this isn't up for debate. It becomes incredibly hard to argue for Gohan in pretty much any instance if you know what you're talking about. When using the Dragon Ball Super manga, it's a little easier to argue in Gohan's favor because it's not as clear whether or not Goku absorbed the God Ki into his base form. I personally do think he did, but that's for reasons that I won't get into for this video specifically. It doesn't really relate to it, but you could probably argue that in the manga, Cabba doesn't actually scale to any of the god stuff. So then you actually have to debate whose base form is stronger between Cabba and Gohan, and it's really not looking good for Gohan. Like, even then, in the manga, Cabba has better feats than anything you could argue for Super Saiyan 2 Gohan. After getting Super Saiyan 2, he throws an energy blast at Frieza, and it actually forces him to go golden to tank the damage. Or actually, no, that was Caulifla in the manga that did that, not Cabba. Cabba did it in the anime, but the manga and anime have different scaling, so. But even if you do think that Caulifla is stronger than Cabba in the manga, his performance against Golden Frieza in the manga is infinitely better than any Cell Games or Buu Saga level character would have been able to do. Like, in my opinion, it's borderline impossible to argue Gohan beats Cabba, especially when Cabba has showings like this in both the manga and the anime.
Okay, so this is a good question, and I'd have to give it to Super Saiyan 2 Cabba. And
this town is full of monsters. How can you sit there and eat pizza?
But if you really want Gohan to win, I luckily got an argument for you Gohan goons, right? If you're debating Gohan versus Cabba and you're stuck with Gohan, use this argument, it'll probably help you win. For Super Saiyan 2 Gohan, there's a statement from El Manga Legendario which states that when Gohan gets angry, his latent potential is unleashed. So it's kind of like his ultimate form from the Buu Saga, and Ultimate Gohan was absolutely curb stomping Super Buu, let alone Super Saiyan 3 Goku and Fat Buu. Some people may counter that Goku was already stronger than Super Saiyan 2 Gohan when he fought Majin Vegeta, but he was already barely conscious during that moment, and Gohan himself admits that he was only at half power, so Vegeta really couldn't have seen his full strength at that moment. And then way later, during the Universe 6 tournament arc, the basic idea is that even if Gohan is really rusty and really out of practice, if he gets angry, his potential is unleashed and he basically reaches those Buu Saga levels again. And both Goku and Vegeta think that Gohan being in the tournament is like a worthwhile addition. Like, there's no one else that they can think of but this Buu Saga level character. Now, if someone brings up the fact that Gohan has actually been training in the background, like in the manga and the anime, I don't know what to tell you. The argument's basically killed right there and then, but most people don't know about this, so you should probably be fine. And then for Cabba, just argue that the God Ki in base form thing was retconned. Saiyan Beyond God is a transformation. Yeah, Saiyan Beyond God is like your one real ticket to actually explaining everything away. Saiyan Beyond God is heavily hinted at in the Resurrection F manga, hinted at in all the video games from that time, and you could argue it was even in the movie Resurrection F, and that was written by Akira Toriyama, so you can't really argue against it. And that's also how later, during the Copy Vegeta filler arc, Copy Vegeta is actually able to no-cell Super Saiyan 3 Gotenks. It's because he's using Saiyan Beyond God, and if they don't buy that argument, then Goten and Trunks in the Yosun Goku and his friends return special, which is canon, by the way, just bring up Tarble, basically argue that both of them were weaker, than someone who was arguably on the level of like first form Frieza. And then obviously a fusion of someone on that level would get his shit kicked in by even like Super Saiyan Goku on Namek, probably, if you did the math. So yeah, a base Vegeta by that point would kick his ass 100%. And that way, you kind of really do nerf Cabba. Even then, the power gap really isn't that egregious. You could probably still argue Cabba wins. But this is where you come in with the clutch, right? The final argument that really seals the deal, right? In the Universe 6 tournament, Cabba was like wheezing and panting on the ground, right? And Vegeta's like smiling and having a grand old time. So basically, just argue that because Vegeta is a much better fighter than Cabba, that even if they are equal in terms of power and speed, Vegeta is still performing way better against him because Cabba just really isn't that good of a fighter. And Gohan is way better than Cabba at fighting. You argue that even if Cabba is like around Gohan's level, Gohan would absolutely curb stomp him anyway, just because he's a way better fighter, better techniques, better everything. And yeah, that's probably how I would go about getting Gohan over Cabba. But even then, you could probably still argue a Cabba victory even with all these other conditions met. Anyway, Unremarkable out.
We already know the smell of a